Thanks for those that are able to join. This started out as a conversation in the DevRel Slack around ambassadors and how do you do ambassador programs and the different ones, and knowing that there's a number of companies out there that do it. And I know that Swarna at Cloud Foundry, correct? Yeah, right. And then I always want to use a different word, and I know that's not right. And then Otto here at Auth0. I figured it'd be a good opportunity for everybody to kind of chat about what we're doing and some of the things, the wins and the losses and the good things that work and the things that don't within our respective organizations and communities. So it's really kind of a open-ended kind of conversation, but one that I figured we'd let Swarna and Otto both kind of share what they're doing, and if anyone else wants to chime in with stuff that they're doing, go right ahead. So Swarna, you're to my left on here, so I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, sounds good. So at least the Cloud Foundry community, we have about 3,000 users, and it was really hard, I think, to keep track of who's kind of like the top contributors or the top champions. So the program was started before I joined the foundation. I joined the foundation only about a year ago. So the program was already existing, but there was no structure around it. Even the ambassadors didn't really know what they were started to do. And being an open source foundation, we didn't understand how to set any kind of structure. I had run these kind of programs in my past roles at a commercial kind of a place where it's more like enterprise programs. So we have a structure, we have specific goals and objectives and expectations out of the program. But here with an open source foundation, that was the first thing that at least we kind of felt that it was different. At least I felt that it was different. I set a structure. We had about, at least I was given a list of 120 people called as Cloud Foundry ambassadors in a list. And I started reaching out. The first few months were exclusive one-on-ones, but pretty much anyone that responded to my email request saying, I would like to talk to you and get to know the ambassadors. So the main intent was to kind of prune the list in the sense that find the missing gaps in terms of areas of expertise, because Cloud Foundry as a platform is pretty broad and complex. So kind of identifying the gaps that exist in terms of areas of expertise, in terms of employers, in terms of regions, gender, level of expertise, all of these kind of different aspects that at least we try to associate everyone with. And even the kind of opportunities that they were interested in. We wanted a few folks that were interested in speaking opportunities, few that were interested in writing opportunities, and few that would partner with us or anyone else in terms of lab or the training materials, the onboarding documentation. So kind of different goals for themselves that they could help us with as well. So kind of working on those kind of aspects, we ended up with a list of, I want to say about 40 people. So from about 120 to bringing it down to a third of the folks. But it was pretty good. And earlier this year, we had our North American Annual Summit, and we kind of, obviously, as always at any of our summits, we thank our ambassadors. We thank them for all the contributions that they make. We explicitly reach out to the ambassadors for any kind of feedback or any initiatives that we want to put together within the community. Just kind of use them as a sounding board for anything that we would like to start within the community. It didn't really pick up a whole lot of traction at our earlier summit, so there wasn't a whole lot of awareness. Not everyone knew what the program was, not everyone knew what the expectations was. But as we went through the course of the year, and as I saw at our most recent summit a couple of weeks ago that we had in our European region, the awareness was pretty high when compared to the previous summit, and everyone knew what an ambassador was, everyone knew what their expectations was. So, and there were a lot of people that were interested in joining the program. So there were at least 7 or 8 different people that reached out to me after our Switzerland summit and asked me if they'd be eligible to join the program. So being an open source foundation, we didn't really put a qualifier associated with it. So anyone that's passionate about the technology, anyone that's willing to spend a few more cycles from their day job and spend that contributing back to the community in terms of either engineering efforts or evangelizing efforts, marketing, documentation, any kind of functional experience that they could bring it back to the community and help the community benefit would probably become eligible for Cloud Foundry, for being a Cloud Foundry ambassador. So there isn't a whole lot of certification or structured process around who is and who is not an ambassador. So that definitely makes it easier. What I find it at least challenging is, as I was telling Otto, how do I say your name? Otto? Okay.
Otto.
I was telling Otto on the Slack DMs, I still am trying to figure out how to track and measure the success. I can track the activity now, and based on what at least we have been noticing or we have been measuring, the level of activity and the level of involvement from the ambassadors has increased, which kind of increases the awareness in the community, which obviously helps others want to become ambassadors in return. But I still have not figured out how to either easily measure, instead of a manual process, easily measure the success of it. Like, what are the success criteria that I should be associating with the program, and how do I measure those kind of things? I'm still working with the other community managers within the LF umbrella as well. Like Linux Foundation has other projects. There's CNCF, there's Hyperledger, there's Edgex, there's the automotive grade Linux umbrella. They all have the community managers as well. So I'm working with them to figure out understand how they're measuring, how they're tracking, and trying to implement some of their aspects as well. But I think so far we have kind of led it as a loosely structured program. It's been working well. We also have specific initiatives or incentives to the ambassadors, like ambassador specific vest or an ambassador specific t-shirt or a lapel pin that is a unique identifier for the ambassadors. It kind of makes them feel good about being in the program, but also I expect them to respond to me anytime I reach out to them as asking for help or asking for feedback or asking for their time or any kind of volunteering them for anything else. It's been working well so far. I just need to see how I guess as we go forward, how do we grow the program, or how do we grow the number of members in the program, or should that even be the right objective or the right measure for us to measure the success of the ambassadors program itself? And if growing the number of members in the program is the right measure, like the right KPI, then how do we carefully increase the number of members rather than bringing everybody or calling everybody an ambassador? So it's not like we have the success formula or anything, but I did want to share what we are doing so far and get any thoughts from anyone here as to how you are thinking about it, or if you already have this kind of a program, how are you measuring and tracking? How are you making it easier on yourself? Because I think right now, the biggest challenge that I have is we have about 50 members right now. We grew by 10 in the last few months, but of the 50 people, it's kind of challenging for me to measure the exact activities that they're doing and to see if it's working for them, if they find any kind of value in being an ambassador, if the community is finding value from the ambassadors themselves. And with that, I will stop my rambling and I will either let Otto take over, or any thoughts from anyone, any kind of feedback or any thoughts that you could, as I was rambling, that came to your mind.
Are you okay with questions as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the first things that you mentioned is that the awareness was sort of growing from the North America events up to the European events. By the way, which was awesome to see on Twitter. I'm wondering, how did you raise that awareness? Because that's actually one of the things that I'm struggling with at my current company on how to raise the awareness of similar types of programs.
Good point. I guess I took a slightly different approach. I guess it's probably my personality or something, but I looked at it more like elevating their presence in the community. So I picked, just as an experiment, I picked about 10 or 15 people and I literally volunteered them for different things. And they didn't know that I was asking them to volunteer because they were an ambassador. I just said, hey, I think you are great at this. Why, can you please help me? Because I have no clue what this is. Either that was really true because I honestly didn't know what it was. Like, for example, I'm not really that familiar with Bosch. So anytime anyone had a question or there was some activity around Bosch, I would just go to a group of 3 people, 3 ambassadors in the community, and ask them to kind of slowly volunteer themselves. I kind of did that experiment with about 10 or 12 people, and that really paid off because they felt good about it. They felt great that the foundation was giving them the kind of attention or the forum that they needed to amplify their profile or to amplify their presence in the community. And they kind of started writing about the presence in the community, how awesome the community was. So it kind of, it was slight nudge from our side, but they did the rest of the work themselves. They started talking about how awesome the ambassador program was. Anytime they were given a speaking opportunity, they would first start with, I'm a Cloud Foundry ambassador, and I do all of these things, and how this is so awesome. So it kind of, it gave them a good feeling being an ambassador, and I think that kind of acted as a spokesperson themselves without me having to ask them explicitly. But I don't know how far I can scale that. Doing that with about 10 or 12 people was pretty easy in a course of 6 to 8 months. But I don't know if I can do that, or if I have the bandwidth or personal energy to do that across 50 people or even more number of people as we grow the program.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for the feedback, by the way.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could ask those people who have now gotten really enthusiastic about the ambassador program to do the same for the next group. So it's like a phone tree.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think of that. I'm going to make a note. Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts?
Helps if I'm not on mute. I think it's really interesting. One thing that is important within community work and even within ambassador programs and developer relations and all that is making the ask. It's called making the ask, but it's literally asking for that, asking for something specific. Hey, I'm looking for XYZ. I'm looking for people to come in and help with this and with that. And often every time I've done that, I've been surprised by the number of people that go, oh, yeah, I'd love to. And it's often because I think people don't know where they want to help, but they don't know where the help is needed, and so they just don't. And they wait. But when you make that ask, and so I think that's important. One of the things you mentioned around that, Swarna, was just you start asking people. Said, hey, would you like to be a part of this? Would you, and sending out that notification and getting that feedback back is important.
Sorry to interrupt on that point. Hi everyone, I'm Ali, by the way. I work at Confluent for the community team. So I'm the community manager at Confluent. Nice to meet you all. And thank you so much for doing this. This is super helpful. I just wanted to ask Swarna one thing and also touch on one of Jeremy's points, which was, first of all, Swarna, you said that you had 120 people at the beginning. Where did those people come from? How did you get that narrowed list of people from your 3,000 members?
I have no idea. So the previous person that was in the community manager role arrived at that list. I didn't know how that person arrived at that 120 group of people. When I asked them if they got any kind of insight into why they were, or even when I asked the team, even they didn't know. So I guess there was probably some kind of logic behind choosing those 120 people. But when I reached out to almost all of them, I think I had about good 90, 100 conversations, but some of them were not really sure if they even wanted to be an ambassador because they just didn't understand or didn't find any value. Some folks, their job profiles and their work profiles had changed, so they were not working so closely with Cloud Foundry any longer, so they didn't want to be an ambassador any longer. And some of them were like, well, I like it, but my career path is slightly different, and the ambassador program is, while I like it, while I enjoy being part of it, it's not going to be beneficial for either of us. So I think it's perfectly okay to just not be an ambassador. So that's how I kind of whittled it down to 40 meaningful
Yeah.
set of people.
Yeah, that's great. And that actually takes me to my second point, which is something that Jeremy said as well. And it's something that you're actually also mentioning is what I'm finding trouble with is on adding value to them. So I know how much value they bring to me, but I want to offer value to them. So I want to know and build the program. By the way, my state in this program is 0 right now. I'm building it from scratch. No one's done anything for it before. So I'm literally just starting from 0. And I'm pretty, like maybe advanced on the idea of why we want to do this and how we want to do this and all the technical kind of like ways of going around. But what I really want to know is how do I make it attractive for people to continue to want to be there? Because I hear a lot about all these programs like, okay, yeah, I'm part of that and it's great because it's in the name and, I'm an Oracle Ace, whatever, or I'm, don't know, just for the name of it and for the sake of it. But I hear a lot of people just saying, yeah, but you know what? It's just, I don't get anything from it. It just takes time from me. I'm just getting asked and asked, like Jeremy just said, ask for stuff here and there. And I want to bring value to them, but I want to know that before building the program, because I don't want to build it if it's not going to bring value to the community personally. So that's something I'm struggling with. I wonder what you guys think of that.
You probably have to
So
find
one way I approach that, just to kind of, when I was talking to the ambassadors, one way I approach that is I just ask them, like, what are your goals? What do you want out of this program? And some of them, even out of the 40 something or the 50 something that I have on the program so far, some of them are not keen on public speaking at all. End of discussion. If I ask them to step up or volunteer them for public speaking, they just completely shut up. But they are willing to champion Cloud Foundry within their organization. They will not even reply to my email, but they are the strongest supporter that I can ever find within their organization for Cloud Foundry technology in general. They will go to any length to convert, so to speak, as many people as they possibly can as Cloud Foundry enthusiasts. And then there are certain people that are...
And is that just purely because of the love for what you guys do and just wanting to just be part of that somehow, or is that because they see some benefit for them as well?
I'm not sure. When I tried to ask that question, they were like, I really love Cloud Foundry, and I just think that I want to become that one person that is representative of Cloud Foundry within my organization. So there could be a benefit that they are trying to establish as they're trying to establish their own identity or profile within their organization or in their industry or in their region. But sometimes I don't ask, because if they make it explicit to me that their intent is not to be a public speaker or not to be a mentor or involved in any of those kind of outward facing activities, that they would do anything that they possibly can to onboard their brand new colleague onto Cloud Foundry, I'm perfectly fine with that. And then there are some folks that focus on building training materials. So anytime I need a hands-on lab kind of a thing set up for any event, I can always rely on them. But if I ask them to do public speaking, they hate it. So identifying what their strengths are or what they want to be, and kind of creating their own path within the ambassador program has definitely helped. But that being said, we are a nonprofit and an open source foundation, so it's a lot easier for me to structure or loosely structure this program so that I can say that, hey, I don't have any financial goals associated with it. I don't have any kind of metrics that I need to report back to my product team or to my executive team. The only numbers, I guess, that we are going to report back is how the community is benefiting from the ambassador program. And sometimes that is qualitative, sometimes that is quantitative, mostly it is qualitative, but it's, at least the way I have found it extremely beneficial is just asking them what their aspirations are and making sure that the ambassador program expectations, at least from that particular set of people or from that subset of people are aligned to where their career aspirations are. One of our ambassador folks, she is a product manager, and she focuses a lot more on corralling all these different project teams and setting priorities and kind of clearing up the backlog and everything. And she doesn't have the bandwidth to focus on anything outbound kind of activities. And she's like, I don't have time for that. But in terms of setting roadmap and in terms of making sure that the project direction is aligned with the community's expectations, I can definitely do that. So again, I let her be, and she is happy about it. Sorry, Jordan, I know you were.
No, that's fine. No, I'm just listening. Like, this is all really good advice. And like, it's awesome to see like how you're kind of encouraging the community through these like intrinsic motivators, which is exactly like, and by the way, my name is Jordan, guys. I work at PubNub in developer relations. So I'm actually right now like that. This is kind of the reason why I wanted to have the meeting. I was late, like I had another meeting. And so I think I missed the beginning of what you guys were talking about. But I'm starting the ambassador program here at PubNub, and I've already created a landing page. I've already gotten approval from the executive team. So right now I'm in the process of kind of figuring out how I want to manage my ambassadors and kind of some of the goals for the ambassador program. So I guess my question is, you guys may have already covered it. How do you manage all your ambassadors? So can you talk about like the sign up flow on your website and how do you store that data? And then, do you guys use like a CRM tool to kind of manage these ambassadors? Who gets swag, who doesn't? I don't know who can tell me about this, like the logistics of actually running the program.
That might be, if I could jump in, that might be a good segue into Otto talking about what we're doing with our Auth0 ambassador program, because everything you just asked is stuff that he's specifically working on right now. So jump to that.
Unless you have anything to add on that, Swarna, I would be happy to take over.
Go for it. My CRM is a Google spreadsheet, so go for it.
Awesome. Well, let me share my screen so I could show you guys a little bit of what we're doing. And hint, hint, we're also using Google Spreadsheets. But anyway, so our ambassador program was kind of, we started it late last year, and it was kind of a two-pronged approach. One was a little bit selfish on my part, and not wanting to travel 90% of my time. So what we did with our ambassador program was we wanted to kind of embed ambassadors and embedding individuals in different parts of the world that cared about our product, and that they were really passionate about identity and security, which is kind of a dry topic in itself. But people who were fans, who kind of liked what we were doing, we wanted to support them, amplify them, and basically give them a platform. So that's kind of how we took the approach to our ambassador program. And we built this landing page for it, this whole kind of space exploration theme. And most of our ambassadors, what they do is they actually do community events. So they do meetups, conferences, webinars. We also have a guest author program that's managed by a different team, but all of our ambassadors are also eligible for that program as well. So most of our ambassador stuff is actually in-person events. So our landing page just kind of tells you a little bit about it. We give an amplification for an ambassador of the month. I haven't updated it in a little bit. But basically, every month we pick an external ambassador of the month and also an internal one. Our ambassador program is open to both internal employees and non-employees who are kind of passionate about what we do. So every month we nominate an external ambassador and an internal ambassador of the month. And Jeremy has won a couple times, so you guys see his picture there.
Nice job, Jeremy.
Try not to get scared.
You're killing it. You're killing out there.
And then, so, our criteria for being an ambassador is, if you love software development, if you're an active participant in your tech community, and if you've demonstrated an interest in at least two of the following topics, so writing blog posts, public speaking, conference events, web or mobile development. So kind of if you're a nerd like us, we want you part of the program. And also one of the other kind of requirements, or not even requirements, but one of the perks is if your dream job is to become a developer evangelist and get involved in evangelism, advocacy, and stuff like that, we kind of want you in the program because we offer a lot of mentoring training on how to become that. And then you have to be 18 years or older. And then when it comes to perks, this is kind of one of the big reasons that our ambassador program has been really successful is one, we have exclusive swag, so t-shirts, stickers, just for ambassadors that are kind of exclusive to them. We also do sponsorship for local developer meetups and conferences. So if our ambassadors, want to organize a meetup, we'll sponsor that. So we'll, give them money for pizza and drinks and all of that stuff. And then finally, one of the biggest benefits we provide, I think, is if our ambassadors get chosen to speak at a conference or at a meetup that's in a different city, different town, different country, and the conference doesn't cover their costs, we actually will. So we'll pay for their flight, we'll pay for their hotel. So, we'll cover the cost for them. And the only requirement for them is that their talk has to be about security, identity, and, if it's Auth0 specific, great, but as long as it's kind of in that field that we're in, we'll cover the costs. And occasionally, we might make some exceptions as well. If, the ambassador has been with us a while and they got accepted to, like a front-end meetup where they're talking about, CSS grid or something, we've, if it makes sense to send them, we'll do that as well. And then we'll also...
Sorry, Ada, to interrupt.
Sure.
That's amazing. How many of those do you do quarterly?
I'll get to it. So I have our report that I can share, but we probably do about 40 events per quarter.
That's really impressive. Through ambassadors, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
40 that you sponsored the lodging?
So we sponsor probably 70-80% of those. So wow. Probably, between 30 to 35 events we'll cover the cost for.
And they're spread out. I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Otto, but I think most of those are spread out into Europe and Asia, are where those tend to be spread out. And then we're covering a lot more of the, Europe and US ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all external people, external from your company.
Yeah.
And those tasks that I shared, those are just for our external ambassadors. Our internal ones, we kind of manage a little bit differently. So, those events we cover as well, but we don't track them as part of the ambassador program.
Right.
And then finally, kind of, you won't be alone in the mission. So we have a Slack channel for all of our ambassadors where they can kind of collaborate together. Ask for help. That's where we hold our trading sessions, our, kind of information catalog, previous presentations that they can kind of look at, get inspiration from, and stuff like that. So that's kind of the, our sales pitch for the ambassador program. And that's how we get most of our ambassador leads. So people usually find out about the program via Twitter or, from us just talking at events or ambassadors talking at events and saying, hey, you can be a part of this too. They come here, fill out a little bit of info, we review their application, and then either send them an invite to the program or, if we have too many ambassadors in a certain region, we'll reach out and tell them, we currently don't have a space open, but, we'll reach out if we do.
And we also track that through and starting to move towards tracking that inside of our community as well. Mm-hmm. And so that way that, there's more incentive as well, not just to, get involved here, but also to get involved in the community, both online and offline as well. And then they get incentives. So if they're more involved, they get, points to track up towards, all of that.
Yep.
In terms of the swag stuff and how we handle sending that stuff out, we use a system called Printfection, which is similar to like Sendeso, or there's a number of them out there, but essentially we have, we use them to order our swag. It gets stored with them, and then when we send it out, and we're ready to send it out, we just select what we want, drop ship it to, the ambassadors are going to be going and speaking, or anyone that's going to be speaking at a conference, or, just if we're going to sponsor a conference, that kind of thing. And then we also can send individual links instead of having to manage the whole, hey, we're going to send out for an award and all that. We actually just send a link itself that they can go in and they can fill it all out, and then Printfection themselves handles all of the shipping so that we don't have to, deal with that headache.
That's so smart. That's exactly like the kind of stuff I'm looking for.
And they have an API built in as well. I'm starting to use that a little bit that allows you to, you could put it into, depending on what your system is. If it's something where you have, open source contributions, and if they've done XYZ as part of your Circle CI integration or whatever you want, you could add that it kicks off an API and sends them an email with that link. So there's some integration. There's others, like I said, that do something similar, but that's the one we use.
Yep.
So they fill out, so once they're approved, they fill out their address and all that, and then they get the swag sent to them essentially.
Yeah.
That's really smart. Okay.
And we also, so recently, last month actually, we moved to the, like Jeremy was mentioning, we moved most of our operations to the community forums. And this is just a discourse forum, I think, that is heavily, I guess, modified. And, we have a whole bunch of features on there just for the ambassadors. And we basically broke it up into 3 active sessions for now. Meetups is still kind of pending. But once we onboard an ambassador and we send them the invitation email, they create an account here, we add them to the group, and then to get onboarded, they just go to this info section where they can learn a little bit more about the ambassador program, figure out how to track their activity, the cost that we cover for part of the program, how to do meetups, how to do conferences, how to send for requests. And then once they're ready to start doing events, for every event that they want to do, they just create a new thread saying, hey, I want to do, a Hacktoberfest in Ranchi. So this is one of our ambassadors. So he kind of tells us what he's doing. It's going to be a meetup, kind of the expected audience, when it's going to be, and then what type of support he's asking for us. So for example, here, he was just asking for a budget for, coffee and snacks, which was about $100. So, we approved that, we send him the money. And once the event is over, what the ambassadors do is every month we have an activity tracking spreadsheet where they basically tell us the events that they completed, how many people they reached, and they share pictures from the events, they share what they did, how it went, their contributions. And this is kind of the main document we use, from October to now, or from September actually to now for tracking ambassador events.
So do you get receipts and like so how do you know that they so you give them the money, how do you know that they're not going to run away with it?
The system is heavily based on trust at the moment. And usually, the ambassadors, for the first few events they do, we kind of feel them out, and, we might not approve a huge budget for them. But, once they post pictures, once they, post contributions, if they're active on our Slack channel, the system is kind of based on trust. So we can't fully, and then sometimes, they'll send us receipts, or when it comes to booking hotels and flights, we actually do that ourselves. So, they just give us their information, which flight they want, what hotel they're going to stay at. And we actually make the confirmation, or we make the booking ourselves, and then just send them the confirmation numbers and, deal with all of that.
Yeah,
because as a side note, my Tesla is really awesome.
Nice.
So,
because I was talking to my legal, someone on legal, and what she recommended, she was like, oh yeah, they can pay for this stuff and then we'll reimburse them.
Mm-hmm.
But part of my worry was like, if it's college students or it's people that are, maybe don't have $250 to drop on a meetup, they might be like not interested in doing it because they actually want that money. So
right.
how do you guys actually send the money to them?
So it really depends. So, PayPal is our preferred method, but, we have a lot of ambassadors that are based out of India, out of Nigeria, out of, Sri Lanka, kind of all over the world. And a lot of those places, they don't accept PayPal, or, we can't do it via PayPal. So, we will use we'll do like a wire transfer, or we'll do like a WePay, I believe is one of the companies we use. And then, there's a bunch of different ways to get money to people. And usually, if the ambassador has been with us for a couple months and we kind of, deem him as trustworthy, we'll send him the money, or, we'll wait for receipts and then kind of reimburse him however we can.
Oh, so sometimes you don't send the money up front.
Yes, sometimes we don't send it up front. Sometimes we don't.
How do you decide that?
It's really, right now it's on a case by case basis, really. So, we kind of look at how long the ambassador has been with us, what event they're going to, Usually meetups, they'll post a meetup on the meetup page. We'll kind of be able to gauge if that meetup is active, how many attendees it usually gets, and decide from there, should we send this person money or not. But like I said, the system right now is highly based on trust.
Cool, thank
Sorry,
you.
for the activity tracker, I think that's a gold mine. Is that visible only to your ambassadors? Because
It is.
Because it is. And have you thought about a way to making that public? I think it's amazing. The whole community should see that.
Right. One of the things that we started earlier this year, and we kind of let go by the wayside because we haven't had time to dedicate to it, was creating an ambassador, like an Auth0 ambassador Medium blog, where we're going to post like interviews with our ambassadors, events they're doing, and kind of make it really public facing. That's one of the things we unfortunately haven't had time to really dedicate resources to. I could kind of show it. Let's see, go here. Medium.com, Auth0 ambassador.
What's the backend platform that you use for that?
I think Jeremy can speak to that. It's Discourse, right? Or Discord? One of those.
Discourse.
Discourse.
Okay.
Auth0 maybe.
It's the only one I recommend. If you've spent any time around me, it's the only one I recommend.
And so all the applicants, then they're fed into what, a Google sheet, and then you guys add them to your discourse then after? Is that how the flow works?
Yeah, so basically they fill out that form, we get a Slack notification with the application, and if we accept it, then we just send them a direct email to join the community and our Slack group. And then finally for tracking the, kind of tracking our metrics, the way we do it is, we also use a Google Sheet, and it looks a little something like this. So we look at it, how many conferences they attended, how many meetups, how many written posts they did, webinars, other types of events such as books or things that we can kind of categorize, but still counts as a contribution. And also this final category is mention Auth0 at an event. So this category is really for ambassadors that did an event. They talked at a conference, they talked at a meetup, but it wasn't necessarily about identity or security or Auth0, but they still mentioned, hey, I'm an Auth0 ambassador, I do, this. We kind of track those as well. And then we have our entire list of contributions, all of our ambassadors, and then this spreadsheet is kind of automated to kind of pull that data in and kind of give us a dashboard overview of how many contributions, where the events are taking place, and kind of give us a bit of an insight into how the program is doing. And currently, we kind of aim for 40 events every quarter, and we've kind of been at that range, 43, 46. Q4 might be just because it's, we have Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah,
and
it'll be a little lower.
It'll be a little lower, but hopefully we can still hit the 40.
I mean, this is awesome. Like, where's the custom form? Where are you pulling that info from?
So the custom form, so that's basically this form right here. So it's on our website. Once they fill it out, it just gets sent to our Slack. We have a Slack bot that kind of captures that email and then sends us a application just like this. So we, it tells us who the ambassador is, their message, where they're located, and then from here we decide whether we're going to accept the ambassador or not.
What are the requirements for someone to be an ambassador? Because I saw you have 67 ambassadors, but you've rejected a few, like 24. So I have some questions about that. First, sure. What are the requirements? So like, why do you reject? And second, how do they find out about it on the first place? How do you promote the whole program?
Okay, so to answer the first question, the requirements, one of the things, the two big things we look at is how active they are in the community. So if they're already organizing meetups, if they already have like conference speaking experience, that's a big plus. The other item we look at is how active they are online. So if they've contributed, blog posts, if they've written either on their blog or if they have a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel where they kind of post their videos. Those are the two primary criteria we look at as kind of, whether we want them in the program or not. The other thing that we look at is how many ambassadors we have in a specific region. So if we get too many applications from Las Vegas, for example, we try to keep it to 2 ambassadors per city, per location. So if we have, 3-4 people applying for San Francisco, for example, and we already have 2, then we'll send them a rejection, a rejection basically telling them that we already have enough ambassadors in that area, but if a spot opens up, we'll follow up with them. And usually, our requirements for the program is that you're at least semi-active. So as long as you make 1 contribution every 3 months, and whether it's a written blog post or you did a meetup or something, then you're eligible to remain in the program. But if you go 3 months without a contribution, we'll kind of shoot you an email and ask you, hey, are you still interested in being in the program? Is there anything we can do to help you make a contribution, and just kind of figure out where they're at? Because, sometimes they get a new job, or they get a career change, or they just decide, hey, I don't have time for this. And they kind of, fizzle out from the program. So those people, we it's not that we don't want them in the program anymore, but we're just making room for others that might be, more susceptible to wanting to make contributions. So that's kind of the criteria we look at. And the second question, sorry, I forgot what it was.
Thank you. Sorry, it was, how do you promote the program itself? How do people actually know where to apply and how to find it?
So our primary promotion is via our ambassador Twitter channel. So 0 ambassador. So we have this Twitter account where we basically post where our ambassadors are going, what they're doing, and we have a pinned tweet for kind of promoting it for people to find out about it. We'll occasionally tweet from our corporate Auth0 account about the ambassador program, and we also have this landing banner up here that right now it says guest authors wanted, but it changes based on where you're coming from, how often you're coming to the site. So occasionally you'll see one that says Auth0 ambassadors, Auth0 ambassador program, and we'll kind of promote it that way. So our promotion has primarily been Twitter, our corporate site, and then whenever I do a meetup or a conference talk, I'll mention that I run the ambassador program, and if anybody's interested, come find me, or check it out online and apply. So that's been our promotion strategy.
Awesome, thank you.
I love that promotion strategy of tracking how many times the people visited the site and then showing. That's so genius. I'm loving. All this is really helping me because I'm writing all this down, and I'm gonna try to replicate a lot of these things when I'm developing the program at PubNub. So
we are recording too, so you don't have to write too fast.
Oh, perfect. Okay, this is great. This is great.
That's great to know, because I'm scribbling over here too. I'm this is.
Otto, I had a question for you. My name's Judith. I'm the developer marketing manager at Kong. And I was wondering how many people it takes to run the ambassador program. Are you a team of 1, or is this more than 1 person?
So it is currently for the longest time, it was a team of 1, and it was kind of my 20% project, because I was, doing events all the time. And so for a long time, it was just a team of 1. And for a little bit, it was kind of difficult to keep track with everything. So we saw engagement going down. We kind of missed a few opportunities. But right now, Jeremy has stepped in whenever he could and given a lot of great feedback. He actually converted me to the community forum. And now we've also hired a part-time person to help us deal with the bookings, because that honestly took a lot of our time, where we were basically, glorified travel agents. Finding flights and booking flights. So now we have a part-time person that, a couple hours a week, he'll go in and do all of the bookings for ambassadors for events that we're sponsoring and we're kind of covering the cost for. But for right now, it's still very much me doing, maybe 60% of the work. And then the rest is other people that, like Jeremy, when they have ideas and when they can contribute, they definitely do. But still 1 person.
That's a good question, and that's awesome.
That's really cool. And I have a follow-on to that, which is how did you spin this whole thing up? What was the MVP, and in what order did you add things on as it grew, or did it just did you drop it all at once and just see how it goes?
So the way that it started was we used to have an evangelism program at OddZero uh, about 3 years ago. So when I joined the company, we had one dev evangelist that was kind of doing everything. And eventually she got burned out and she left the company, and then we didn't have a dev evangelist. So we kind of shut down, evangelism at OddZero for a couple months. And when I joined the evangelism team, now, one of the ideas was, hey, we don't want you to get burnt out. We don't want, you're one person. You can't be at all places at once. Let's try, there, we were seeing on Twitter that a lot of people were, tweeting about OddZero. They were doing meetups where they were, talking about like, hey, let's build an Angular app and add OddZero to it. So that's kind of where the idea sprung from. Let's reach out to these people and see if they would be interested in kind of joining a formal, kind of like experts program or ambassador program. And then we created the landing page and just kind of gathered emails for about 2 months where, we weren't replying to people, where we're still kind of figuring out what our budget was going to be, how we wanted the program to work. And in that time, we were just gathering emails. And, by the time we officially announced the program in August of last year or July of last year, we had about 45, 50 applications. So, we kind of sent out emails for our initial set of 15 or 20 ambassadors. And what we did there was, we invited them to the program and we said, welcome, we're going to do a 2-month long training period on how to become a dev evangelist, a dev advocate. And every 2 weeks, we did a training session, like a Zoom call, where it looked something like, see, I actually had it pulled up here. Okay, so this was kind of the first presentation we did when we onboarded the initial set of ambassadors. So we kind of told them what the goal of the program was, what the, kind of what our strategy was, and then, why you would want to enroll. So you're looking for you're looking for mentorship, you want to be a developer evangelist, you're an active leader in your community. And then, all the perks I kind of talked about. And then this was our training for the first 2 months. We did one on, creating a CFP, applying to meetups, preparing your talk once you're accepted, public speaking, how to host an event, how to do a webinar, technical writing and content. So we did all of these kind of soft skills trainings. And, we recorded all of them, posted them for any ambassadors that we brought on after July. And we still do, a couple of trainings every month, whether it's, sometimes it's soft skills trainings, things we learn, new things we learned. And also we do a lot of technical training on OddZero and on identity and security. So, we want our ambassadors to kind of not only get the perk of, hey, we'll cover your, travel costs, but also, you're learning to become a better, security engineer. You're learning the latest trends in, OpenID, OAuth, JSON Web Tokens, all that fun stuff, so that, once you go to meetups, you can be knowledgeable and you can kind of give the correct information. So that was kind of our initial approach, and it just kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. Thanks.
You went through a slide that said why they would join. Would you mind going back? Yeah, thank you so much. I'm interested about this. And it's interesting. Do you find this is why people actually join?
It is. So one of the things I did at the beginning of this year, I think it was probably January, February timeframe, was I scheduled a one-on-one call with all of our ambassadors. So it was like a 15-minute discussion just to kind of see why they joined the program, and kind of get feedback from them, what were we doing really well, what we failed at, and how we can improve the program. And one of the key items of feedback that almost every ambassador had for me was that the soft skills and the technical skills training that we offered was really invaluable to them. They said, definitely keep doing that. That was one of the things they really liked, enjoyed, and actually, wanting to continue. They really like the perks of, every month we'll do like an ambassador of the month, and the ambassador of the month gets a $200 Amazon gift card or a $200 gift card if Amazon's not available in their region. And they said that's a great perk, but even if that went away, having the skills training is definitely more valuable than those ancillary perks like T-shirts and monetary value and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What was the total cost? Like, what do you guys spend on this?
That I'm actually not sure on. So I don't have the budget numbers because I haven't done bookings in a long time. But
Like a rough estimate, is it like 10 grand?
If I had to give a rough estimate, I would probably say about $35,000 to $40,000 per quarter would be my rough estimate.
Okay.
And that's gonna, as you scale up a program, depending on how quickly you have people that want to jump into something like this, and you can kind of gate that as well of a kind of a slower onboarding.
100%.
But
I mean, you guys are doing 40 events a month. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's so many events. Like me myself, like I can only do probably like max like 25 events, like just because I'm only one guy. So, yeah, that's awesome.
It's funny also because when you like look at that number, like the first thing I heard was like, holy cow, that's a lot of money. And then I thought about it in comparison to like a single conference sponsorship, and it's actually not that much.
It's not that much.
Yeah.
No.
And that's one of those things, like we don't sponsor a lot of developer events. Mainly our thing is we'll send people and talk, but sponsoring an event is and I think we could probably do more than we do, but you got to have the budget for it. But I think we just don't, because we'll send people to go, and we tend to get a lot more of a bang for your buck kind of thing with the ability to send people all over the world. That's a huge attraction for a lot of different companies or a lot of different conferences.
I think that's a great point that actually is very difficult to be able to justify within any company, because of that community engagement is so much more valuable, but because you don't see the leads and the like the actual money signs coming, it's very difficult. We do about 70 events per quarter, of which 40 would be meetups and 30 would be conferences, but most of the people that speak at these are, I'm going to say 70% are Confluent employees. So that's why I think it's so important to, have these in place, the ambassadors program or the MVP program, because it's very, to me, it's much more justifiable that someone else speaks about this and grows the community that us spending all that. But that's why I'm so amazed about the amount of money that you guys are spending on sending people, the lodging and the tickets. I think that's incredible to get approval for that. It's amazing. Right. And actually from a company that's really community oriented, like I have a lot of support from the executive team, and I would be scared about asking for that.
and I think a lot of that, the way I don't want to say the way you spin it, but really it is. I mean, it's the way you present it as, hey, here's ultimately the reach that we can have. And you broaden it, you're building brand awareness, you're building out experts that happen to know about your program that can talk about you, and not just it's always better. Statistics show that you're better off with word of mouth type of things, especially like within community and with developers especially, than with traditional marketing. And so having those things where people can get out in front of people and talk about, and it's people that aren't necessarily an employee but are willing to talk about you, like that does carry some weight with people that are out in the community.
Right, definitely, and kind of that's one of the things I was going to mention, that our ambassadors, they're not Auth0 employees, and they're kind of embedded in their own local community. And I do a bunch of events every month. I'll fly out to meetups and conferences, but when I fly out to a meetup, I'm there for the night, or 2 days, and then I'm gone. So I don't really get a chance to kind of build a local connection as much as an ambassador in San Francisco or Los Angeles, or wherever we have ambassadors can
Totally.
do. And people are more likely to kind of trust their local their friend that they know, that they go to meetups with all the time, than me, a random person that just comes, gives a talk, and kind of leaves. So just having that local connection and kind of supporting it really, I think, goes a long way in making your product seem better and seem much better when people are actually evangelizing it on their own, as opposed to a developer evangelist for a company coming to speak about the product.
That's a huge key point that I actually never thought about, and it's that stronger community building from local people than just you coming in and out of a city. That's huge. Thank you.
And it looks like we are right a little over on time, but if you guys have any more questions, I don't have to get off at 3, but if you guys do, feel free to drop off.
I do just have one quick question. Thankfully, someone beat me to the punch on the MVP question, but in terms of growing pains as you scaled out, like, is there any like caveats or any like snags that you hit along the way that you would like to pass along wisdom for? Like, hey, if you encounter this, or avoid this, or anything like that?
One of the biggest snags, and one of the biggest kind of things that we learned, is you need to dedicate time and resources to it. Otherwise, the program can't run itself. And if if you're not doing the trainings, if you're not keeping up with the ambassadors, it will kind of fizzle out and kind of fall out of their minds. And those ambassadors that you lose due to your inaction, they're kind of mostly gone for good. It's really hard to get them back. So once you get a person interested enough to want to fill out that form and want to join the program, just make sure that you keep constant communication with them and support them. Otherwise, that's one of the programs we had earlier in the year when I was running the program by myself, but I also had back-to-back conferences where I was just traveling months on end, and I just didn't have the time to kind of follow up with the ambassadors or do the trainings. And we had a number of ambassadors just kind of leave the program because they weren't getting any value out of it, or sense of community. So it's kind of a community within a community that you have to nurture to help it grow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any way that you could send over, or like maybe show us like a few of the trainings that you did, like, or just like gloss over? Because like I'm curious on like, how did you guys train people on like how to host your meetup, or like was it just basic stuff like go on meetup.com, make a relationship with the organizer? Like I'm just kind of wondering, because like I'm thinking about how I can train my ambassadors, and I'm kind of just trying to think of the best way, or how you guys approached it.
Right. So the way that we approached it is kind of ad hoc. Like, for example, the one on preparing a CFP, we really just did a Zoom call just like this with the ambassadors, and basically just did a quick presentation on. I don't know if you guys can kind of see that, but there's just some of the slides on it on, for example, how to create a good abstract, how to do something else. I'm just trying to zoom forward. Yeah, so we shared a bunch of resources like lanyard, paper call, things like that. So we kind of just did these ad hoc calls where it was a 20, 30-minute presentation on what we thought would be valuable to know, and then just open it up to questions and feedback and, input from the ambassadors to see kind of what they've done in the past, what worked for them, and kind of just make it a collaborative training session.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
this is great.
So we basically did those, and then for our technical training stuff, we basically just did the same thing as like an online webinar where one person would do a presentation on the topic, leave plenty of time for questions, and then just kind of make it as hands-on and as collaborative as possible, while still kind of making it educational.
All right. Any other things, Warner? Do you have any other things to add, or any thoughts that you've had?
No, this is really cool, and I think this definitely helped how to track the activity and everything in terms of the specifics that I was also looking at. This is really impressive. Thank you.
Cool.
Of course.
All right. Well, I will share this out. I'll probably just upload it to YouTube and then just send you guys the link unlisted and just send you guys a link so people can kind of come back and read it. But yeah, thanks for participating, and maybe we'll try and do some more of these, in the future. I'll talk to Mary, and I've talked about some of this stuff in the past. So, but anyways, yeah, thanks for joining, and hit us up. Otto's on DevRel Collective as well. So if you have any questions, and we can continue that conversation.
Yep, definitely.
Cool. Thank you, Jeremy.
This
Thanks,
was
guys.
amazing, guys. Thank you so much. Super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you. This is really, really great.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.